Hello everyone, my name is Ryan, and in this video I'm going to be covering universal Linux packages, in particular snaps, flatpaks and app images. So when it comes to installing software on Linux, 99% of the time you'll be using a package manager to install software from a distribution's repositories. For example, if you're using Ubuntu, you'll be using a package manager called apt, and if you're using an Arch-based distribution, you'll be using a package manager called pacman. So typically what happens is when you choose to install a piece of software, the package manager itself will search for it in the repositories and then select it for installation. In addition, it'll also check if there's any dependencies that need to be installed for this piece of software to run correctly. Now, normally if you're using a software store such as Ubuntu Software, PopShop or Discover, you're not actually going to see this particular process. However, if you install using a terminal command or a GUI front end for a package manager such as Moen or Synaptic, you'll see exactly what needs to be installed. In addition, once a particular piece of software is installed, then your package manager will keep it up to date. You might be thinking at this point, if all my software gets updated using my package manager, then why would I want to use something else such as universal packaging? Well, to be honest, you may not. It really depends on your distribution choice. So when it comes to Linux distributions, you typically have two release cycles. You have rolling release distributions such as Arch, Manjaro, Solus and OpenSUSE, whose repositories are updated frequently with latest versions of packages and software. Or alternatively, you have fixed point release distributions such as Ubuntu, Debian, Pop! OS and Linux Mint, which typically will not update software in their repositories between each individual release, although browsers are the exception to this particular rule. So in other words, rolling release distributions will always seem to have the latest version of software, so in that particular case using a universal package format with them may seem redundant, but for fixed release distributions, this allows the end user to use a older yet still supported distribution release and then also have access to the latest versions of software. So the first universal package format I'm going to be covering is snaps, which were primarily developed by Canonical, the company behind Ubuntu. In layman's terms, snaps were developed as a method of providing up-to-date software to earlier but still supported releases of Ubuntu. This also does mean that developers do not have to repackage a single application for each release, but instead package a single one that works with all supported releases. Plus, since the fact that snaps are distribution agnostic, you can install them and use them on other Linux distributions as well. Now, the snap technology itself is open source, however the snap store is proprietary to Canonical. But that being said, there is absolutely nothing to stop anyone theoretically hosting their own snap store or repository. In fact, when it comes to snaps themselves, they're not controlled by Canonical. It's actually down to the original developer or the upload of the snap in the first place to keep the software up to date. So when it comes to installing snaps, you have a choice of several different branches from which to install from. The stable branch, which contains the latest stable release version of that piece of software. The candidate branch, which is deemed safe enough for use but may contain some bugs. The edge branch, which is the latest version which is not fully tested yet, so expect some bugs. And then finally you sometimes have a beta branch, which contains the software that is yet to be tested. Now, by default, when you install the snap, it uses the stable branch, so unless you have a reason for a pre-release version of a particular piece of software, then there's not really any reason to use another branch. By default, snaps will run sandboxed to your existing installation and will automatically update themselves independent of a package manager. So what that means is that you'll always be running the latest stable version. Now, when it comes to installing snaps, you can install them directly through a link on the Snapcraft website, a software store, or with terminal commands. For example, if you want to install the snap package for Spotify, you would use the following command, which is sudo snap install and then Spotify. Now, snap is supported out of the box on all modern releases of Ubuntu, Solus, Zorin OS and Manjaro, but almost all other distributions can have support added if you wish. So the second universal packaging format we're going to be covering is Flatpak, which are like snaps in the sense that they are also sandboxed from the rest of the system and allow installation of potentially newer versions of software that wouldn't typically be available in a distribution repository. But unlike snaps, flatpaks do not automatically update. Now you can install a Flatpak directly from FlatHub, use a software store with the FlatHub repository enabled, or once again you can install using a terminal command. For example, to install the Flatpak version of Firefox, you would use the following terminal command, which is flatpak install flathub.org.mozilla.firefox. Now, I will point out that once a Flatpak is installed, unlike snaps, you will have to manually update the Flatpak if there is a newer software version released. So support for Flatpaks does come pre-installed on the latest version of Linux Mint, Fedora, Manjaro, Zorin OS and Pop! OS, but can be easily added to other distributions as well. So the final universal packaging method I'm going to cover is AppImage, which is the only packaging method that does not have a central location or store, but it instead aims for portability, and therefore does not need to be installed in the traditional sense. In other words, you can download and use an AppImage on one system, copy it to another, and still be able to launch it. Although, depending on the distribution, you might need to make it executionable by using the chmod ANX command. For example, to make the Kdenlive AppImage executionable, you would use the following command once you've obviously downloaded it. And the command is chmod a+x and then referencing the AppImage, which in this case is the Kdenlive here. Once you do that, just launch it as normal and you'll be told it's now an executable file. Now I will point out that app images are only ever updated if you replace them with a brand new app image. In other words, the app image you download from a site is static. So if you want a newer version of that particular piece of software, then you need to download a newer app image and overwrite the existing one. And then finally, I'll just make a point that app images can be near enough used on any distribution out there. So when it comes to choosing between snaps, Flatpaks and app images, there isn't technically any clear winner. All three of these options will run sandbox to your existing system, and all three of them can be used on any system. So it really comes down to your requirements. For example, if you want an option that will automatically keep newer pieces of software up to date, then I would recommend using snaps as your best option. Alternatively, you can use Flatpaks, which offer the same functionality, but just bear in mind you need to manually update them. And of course, app images offer a portable option, but if you're using a rolling release distribution, then you might find that all three options might end up being irrelevant anyway. So really, it's up to you which one you want to use. Either way, with this, it brings this video to an end. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and if you did find this video helpful, then please do consider leaving a like, and subscribe to this channel for more content like this in the future. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye now.